John, we saw a fascinating game on Saturday night. Arsenal-Chelsea. I would have put my house on Chelsea the week before Arsenal went to play West Ham, and they were really, the word shambles was in many reports. They were terrible. They took Chelsea apart on Friday night, Saturday night rather, and then after the game, Sarri, Maurizio Sarri, who came from Napoli and has made a very good start, you would think, with Chelsea. He had a go at his players, and it was described as a rant, and it sounds like a rant. He said, these players are weak. I don't like their mentality. It's very difficult to get them to apply themselves. And he really steamed into them in public, which was very surprising. He was also very agitated on the touchline. I'd put the problem down to him, John, because he's playing one of the best players in the world, Eden Hazard, as a centre-forward. He's no more a centre-forward than I'm an astronaut. And he's doing... I'm not an astronaut, Delia, I can assure you. But he's also got Kante playing out of position. What's the story, John?
Well, first of all, Eamon, it's never a good thing to criticise your players publicly.
No.
That's what Mourinho's done and other managers before him, and they usually pay the price themselves. It's a bad policy, and he's the manager, he's players, he has them all the time. Then he's got to ultimately the manager has to take responsibility to how the team play. And what he's done has been controversial, to say the least, with Hazard up front for quite a few matches now. And it obviously doesn't work.
No.
So he's responsible for that. So there's no point in blaming the players in a situation where he's picked the team and put Hazard up front week in and week out for the last 2 or 3 months.
Yep.
So it's never a good policy, Eamon, to see a manager criticise his players. They're his players, and he's got to do his stuff in the dressing room, in the privacy of the dressing room. I think when managers do that, they're only protecting themselves. In other words, I'm washing my hands of them. They didn't do their stuff. It's not my fault. And I think he'll pay the price in the long run for that.
Yeah, Didi, Hazard up front seems such a waste. He's receiving the ball either in the air with his back to goal. He's never... maybe half turned. He's never threatening, really, because if he's out wide with a bit of space to run at people, he's deadly. This is a failed experiment, isn't it?
If you go on Saturday's game, you have to say so. I think it's a position, I think the guy's that good. I think he can probably cover most positions in the attacking half of the pitch, but you need to play a certain way. You need to give him the ball into feet, and that was certainly not the case on Saturday. And this is, if you don't give him the ball to feet, then you take a big part of your lethal side of the team. You take away, because he is the most destructive player. He's the most dangerous player. Even though in Willian and Kovacic, they've got other good players, but he is the X factor. He's the player who makes a difference. And it's really worrying, because I worked on the Trapattoni in Munich, and I know that for an Italian manager, if a player said anything about his teammates or whether he should play, for him there was an absolute no-go area, because he said you don't talk about your teammates in public, because if you say you should be playing, that means another guy shouldn't be playing.
Yes.
And for an Italian to come out and have the rant he did, and when he said, I want to do this in Italian because I want to make sure I don't make any mistakes here, it seemed to me like it's been bubbling for a few weeks, because I don't think on one performance alone he would lose the head as he did. And when you accuse your team of lacking motivation, usually the end is nice. So it's a very interesting story of what's going to happen at Chelsea, whether it's something to do with Abramovich or with the people in charge in the board, whether he hasn't been backed as much as he thought he was. But it's certainly, for Chelsea fans, it's a very worrying sign, because so far I think the guy's done great. I think everything he said was good. And it was really a breath of fresh air. So that was really out of the blue what he said after the game on Saturday. And it certainly doesn't make things easier for the next few weeks.
No, John, there's a couple of things. One is a tactical footballing thing. He brought Jorginho from Napoli, put him in the centre of midfield where Kante had been magnificent, not just for Chelsea, but for Leicester City when they won the Premier League, and for France when they won the World Cup. And he gave Kante a role wide of that midfield three. And that in itself is a big mistake. There's another issue as well. Abramovich has been refused a visa, an English visa. He's now had to go to Israel, and he gets a visa. On an Israeli visa, he can only live 6 months of the year, or the visa at least only lasts 6 months. He's got to renew it. The other thing is Chelsea have cancelled the proposed new stadium. So there's every sign that Abramovich is not really into the club and the soccer as much as he was. He's got bigger fish to fry. So all of that's bubbling away in the background. The thing about Kante in particular, John, I blame Sarri for that the way I'd blame him for Hazard.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, he actually criticised Kante to say he didn't have the technical ability that Jorginho has to play in the middle of the field. I find that unbelievable. I think it wouldn't be so bad, Eamon, if Jorginho was really, really a top-class player doing his stuff. Yeah. That might be some excuse. He's not doing anything, no. Jorginho. I think he's a huge disappointment. He doesn't seem to be able to run. He plays the obvious pass all the time. He doesn't get tackles in. I don't know what the contribution he's making. Well, it's very, very poor. I tell you. In the meantime, Kante is playing wide of the right. Kante will always give you game, Eamon, wherever he plays. He's such a game lad. It's unbelievable. And I think Kante is still doing a really good job for Chelsea. But I would prefer him in the middle of the field. And I think the best thing, if he'd have bought a really, really top-class right-sided midfield player and leave Kante where he was. Yeah, I think he's actually weakened the team in the transfers that he's made and the policy that he has. Yeah,
I tell you what the statisticians say, Didi. I'm looking at the stats, and he's had more ball time on the ball, Jorginho, than any other player in the Premier League. And against West Ham, he played an astounding 180 passes. That's not me. That's the person who wrote the piece describing this fella, Jorginho. I don't know if you've seen enough of him, Didi, to form a judgment, but John's absolutely right. He never plays a progressive pass, never gets a tackle in, and he isn't in the same parish as Kante. Yeah.
These stats can sometimes be misleading. You wouldn't play 180 passes if you had to play forward passes or progressive passes. Otherwise, you wouldn't get the number of passes in 90 minutes. I think the bottom line is, I think Jorginho is a very capable player. I do like him, but I think in that position they had the best probably in Europe, maybe the world. Yes. In Kante. Kante won the league with Leicester. He had a huge impact. Him and Mahrez. He came to Chelsea. He won the league there. Again, he had a huge impact playing in the middle with Matic. And the way they play, I think you lack one offensive player because Kante is a player who likes to have the game in front of him. He's not a player who wants to receive the ball with a back to goal. Now, if you have got two players, I think you've got to make a decision. And if he thinks Jorginho is the better fit, then he's got to put Kante on the bench and bring somebody in because I think the way they play with two holding midfielders, it makes you lack creativity, it makes you lack pace, and it makes you lack committing players forward. And in my book, Kante would be in the team ahead of Jorginho any day of the week. And I agree with you. That's one thing he has to take responsibility. Yes. Jorginho is a capable player, yes, but I think in that position they already had the best in the world. And he won the World Cup as well with France. And so did Paul Pogba. And so did Paul Pogba.